First house moon is a good placement for material progress. But for spiritual progress, this is not a very good placement for the simple reason that moon is your mind. And when mind is on your head, because the ascendant, the first house, is here. So when moon is here, the mind is ruling you. And so first house moon is excellent for material progress. But for spiritual progress, the person have to take more efforts. Now when I said this, Mohan said that the great yogi Paramahansa Yogananda, in his horoscope, moon is in the first house. I said that is wrong. You please check his chart correctly. And you will see that in the KP chart, in the Krishnamurti Paddhati chart, his moon is in the 12th house and not in the first house. So people jump to conclusions. They don't go to in the depth of the matter. Paramahansa Yogananda's moon is in the 12th house, not in the first house. Even the moon in Dalai Lama's horoscope is often shown as if it is in the first house, but in the KP chart, it goes in the 12th house. And as you all know, 12th house is the house of meditation. 12th house is the house of seclusion. It is the house of spiritual progress. And so it is very natural that the moon in the horoscope of Dalai Lama or Paramahansa Yogananda is in the 12th house, which is seen in the KP chart and not in the Rashi chart or the ascendant chart. And that is where people miss to understand the real truth. I would insist to all my close followers to focus on the placement of planets by observing the KP chart, because KP chart is nothing but based on the Placidus system, which is the Western astrology. That is why I say that KP astrology is a cocktail. It is a mixture of Western and Vedic astrology, and which is a good thing. So moon in the first house gives you a very charming personality, makes you a public figure, gives you that charisma to attract the attention of others towards yourself. And then there are many more positive things that happen when a moon falls in the first house. So let's see what are those. Let's begin with this podcast. First house moon means it's all about me. First house moon native is much focused on self than on others. Now, depending on the quality of the horoscope, either the native becomes self-centered, or if the quality of the horoscope is really good, then the native starts focusing on self-growth. It is necessary to understand that there is a difference between being self-centered and being focused on self-growth. A self-centered person is a selfish person, whereas a person focused on self-growth is aware of the fact that if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. And if broken by an inside force, life begins. Great things always begin from the inside. A positive person with this placement thus remains focused on strengthening himself from the inside. He has a good potential to progress in meditation as well as to work on his drawbacks. Thus, self learning, self improvement, self growth is highly possible with this placement, provided the horoscope has good conjunctions and placements and is in general of good quality. Moon is mind, and moon in first house is like the mind ruling over you, which is not a good sign. Remember, the mind is a beautiful servant but a dangerous master. Mind or moon on the very throne, that is in the ascendant, is not a good sign, especially if the moon is alone. Such a man or woman is easily influenced and changeable and not trustworthy. However, if the moon is in conjunction with Jupiter, then the whole dynamics change. And now this moon becomes a beautiful servant, and Jupiter drives the moon on the right path. The Guru drives the moon, the mind, on the right path, the Buddha path, the self-growth path. But if moon is in conjunction with Rahu or Venus or Mercury, then this is definitely not a good sign for spiritual progress. The person is too much trapped in the temptations of the material world. Moon Ketu conjunction in the ascendant or the first house is good, provided the moon sign is Pisces, Scorpio or Cancer. In short, moon alone in the ascendant is a bad placement. For material progress, it may be good, but for spiritual progress, this moon placement is not good enough. And if moon is with sun in the ascendant, then the birth has happened on a no moon day, that is on Amavasya. The moon is afflicted, and generally the mother of such a native suffers in life, or the mother is not of good character, or she may have certain mental problems. Moon with sun is definitely not a good sign, especially in the first house. Such a conjunction can and does create mental problems for the native as well. Moon is the mind, and so when moon is in the first house with Mars, the person is found to be hot-tempered, also sexual, and gets quickly angry. As mentioned earlier, the best placement for moon in first house is when moon is in conjunction with Jupiter or Ketu. Then the person attains progress on his or her spiritual path. Then self-growth is possible. However, one thing is for sure, that a moon alone in the first house definitely becomes great challenge for spiritual growth, because the whole essence of spiritual growth is overcoming the mind, that is the moon. And when moon is placed in the ascendant, it becomes a challenging position for spiritual seekers. However, from a materialistic perspective, this moon does provide certain positive results, such as it gives a beautiful body, a charming personality, a good sex appeal, and overall it gives you the natural magnetism to attract the opposite sex. Many men having moon in the first house attract a lot of women, whereas a woman having this placement appears very attractive to men. A soothing personality, a caring person is what you get with the moon in the first house. The former US President John F. Kennedy has this placement. His moon was placed exactly in the first house. He was probably the most likable and popular US President. One significant quote of John F. Kennedy is, "A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on." First house moon is focused on turning the attention of others towards oneself. And so this is a good placement for a politician, considering the need to appeal to others is very much essential for attaining power. John F. Kennedy, or better known as JFK, was successful in attaining power. Much credit goes to his moon placed in the first house. Here is a quick look at JFK's horoscope. As you can see, his moon is placed in the first house in Purva Falguni Nakshatra, Leo sign, whereas Sun and Venus, Sun being the moon sign lord and Venus being the nakshatra lord, both are comfortably placed in the house of power, that is in the 10th house. No doubt he became the US president, in fact, a very popular US president. Moon in the first house does gives a good attractive body and face, provided the lord of the first house is well placed. A woman having moon in the first house is found to be beautiful. She has a certain glow on her face, but she is also very changeable by nature and is not reliable as such. If you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend having this placement, then be careful. Public person or public figure is one trait of this placement. The very quality of attracting attention of others towards oneself makes them a public figure, provided the chart has a certain level of talent and quality to it. Nelson Mandela was born with first house moon in Vishaka Nakshatra, Libra sign. Here is a quick look at Nelson Mandela's birth chart. Libra sign is very much connected with social life. Men and women born with moon in Libra or ascendant in Libra or major planets in Libra sign are highly socializing by nature, and generally they have the potential to become a public figure. Nelson Mandela was a prominent social reformer and freedom fighter. He was imprisoned for 20 years and still he never gave up. Moon in the first house generally gives a never give up attitude. Believe it or not, a never give up attitude is the only difference between people who are successful and those who are not. It's that simple. Person with this placement is often found to be an extrovert. He does well in social circles. However, health condition often fluctuates. At times the person is feeling energetic while at times he feels low. Constant change in mental and health condition is a trademark of moon in the first house. These men fall quickly to appreciation. If you want to make these natives happy, then just appreciate them and they will quickly yield to your demands or requests. Very often it is this trap of appreciation that makes them a victim. Natives with this placement should try to see whether the appreciation is real or has some hidden agenda. This is a very mental placement, since moon becomes the king, and when mind becomes your master, then it is natural that you are going to face many trials and tragedies in your life. The mind is a monkey, and because it is a monkey, it keeps swinging from one branch of thought to the other. It is never still. Spirituality is all about bringing the mind to stillness. That is to still the wavering monkey mind. The great spiritual master Samartha Ramdas Swami says, all spiritual disciplines are done with a view to still the mind. The perfectly still mind is a universal spirit. Lao Tzu says, to a mind that is still, the whole universe is available. A wavering mind always makes you feel as if you have wandered all over the world, as if you know everything about the world. That is what happened with the monkey. And he was not an ordinary monkey. He was the king of monkeys. One day he went to Gautam Buddha and said, I would like to become a Buddha. Buddha said, I have never heard of anybody having ever become a Buddha while remaining a monkey. The monkey said, you don't know my powers. I am no ordinary monkey. No monkey thinks that he is ordinary. All monkeys think that they are extraordinary. That is part of their monkeyness. And so he said, I am no ordinary monkey. What are you talking about? I am a king of monkeys. So Buddha asked, what exceptional or extraordinary powers do you have? Can you show me? The monkey said, I can jump to the very end of the world. He had been jumping all along in the trees. He knew how to jump. So Buddha said, okay, come on to the palm of my hand and jump to the other end of the world. The monkey tried and tried, and he was really a very powerful monkey, a very intense monkey. He went like an arrow, and he went and he went months, and the story says years passed, and then the monkey came to the very end of the world. He laughed and he said, look, the very end. He looked down. There were 5 pillars that were standing there to mark the boundary. Now he had to come back. But how would he prove that he had been to these 5 pillars? So he urinated near a pillar, a thing that a monkey does, so as to mark it. Years passed and he came back. When he reached Buddha, he said, I have been to the very end of the world and I have left a mark. I have urinated. But Buddha said, just look around. He had not moved at all. Those 5 pillars were the 5 fingers of Buddha, and they were stinking. He had been there with closed eyes, must have been dreaming. That is how the mind is. It is just this monkey who thought that he has been to the other end of the world, when in reality he had been on the same palm of Buddha, on the same hand of Buddha. By swinging from the little finger to the thumb of Buddha, he thought he had traveled the whole world. When such a mind is ruling over you, there is bound to be many miseries in your life than otherwise. So moon in ascendant is primarily not a good position unless the moon is with Jupiter or Ketu. Because in our galaxy, these two, Jupiter and Ketu, are the only entities that can actually encourage you to turn inwards and overcome this monkey mind. Either the person becomes too selfish with this placement or becomes selfless with this placement. It all depends on the moon sign lord and the aspects to moon. You either get a bhogi or a yogi with this placement. There is no middle ground. These are people of extremes. They find it difficult to compromise, and that is indeed one good quality of this placement, that these natives never compromise. Always remember, love and respect yourself and never compromise for anything, and then you will be surprised how much growth starts happening on its own accord, as if rocks have been removed and the river has started flowing. In a way, this is a royal placement, a kingly placement where the native enjoys all the pleasures of human life. That includes sexual pleasures as well. Success in material world is guaranteed with this placement when the moon sign lord is well placed and aspected positively. Overall, this is a placement that brings more graceful energy to the forefront. A man with this placement appears sophisticated and appealing to women, while a woman with this placement appears sexy and appealing to men. Moon in first house means the ascendant and the moon sign is the same. This simply means that the person is completely ruled by the mind. And as you all know, the mind is never stable. And so is the life of these natives. It is never stable. It goes through many ups and downs. And moreover, this placement brings more miseries and suffering, because suffering is mental, and a moon in the ascendant sign does makes the person more sensitive and prone to suffering. Always remember, being rich has nothing to do with being happy. Happiness is based on the state of mind and not on the state of your bank balance. Native with this placement takes everything to his or her heart, because when you become mind, the mind continues to cause much unhappiness in your life. Remember, mind is a mechanism to create unhappiness. Its whole function is to create unhappiness. If you drop the mind, suddenly you become happy for no reason at all. To overcome unhappiness, to overcome the miseries of life, you have to drop the mind. And when the mind, that is the moon, is sitting on your head, that is in the ascendant, it may seem like a difficult battle. But with daily meditation practice, you can overcome the mind. All you need is to get started with meditation, with chanting. Krishna Das, the disciple of Neem Karoli Baba, quotes, "Chanting is a way of getting in touch with yourself. It's an opening of the heart and letting go of the mind and thoughts. It deepens the channel of grace, and it's a way of being present in the moment." Chanting and meditation is therefore necessary to overcome the monkey mind. The more the mind is prominent, the more is the suffering. And since human life is more driven by the mind, it is obvious that life becomes a suffering. Gautam Buddha therefore says that life is suffering. Moon chart is therefore most important than the ascendant chart. And in this case, since the moon and ascendant chart is one, it is a clear indication that the native has identified himself or herself with the mind and not with the self. Remember, identification with your mind creates an opaque screen of concepts, labels, images, words, judgments, and definitions that blocks all true relationship. Moon in the ascendant or in the first house therefore becomes a challenging placement, because the person identifies himself with the mind. He becomes the mind, and then the mind takes him for a ride, a very dangerous ride that leads him to more unhappiness than otherwise. Always remember, to be identified with your mind is to be trapped in time. I am not denying the fact that money and fame comes with this placement, but I am also making you all aware that money and fame has absolutely nothing to do with your self-growth and your happiness. The Master says, fame is foolish, it is pointless, meaningless. Even if the whole world knows you, how does it make you richer? How does it make your life more blissful? How does it help you to be more understanding, to be more aware, to be more alert, to be more alive? The best advice, therefore, is to focus on your self-growth. With moon in the first house, you can do this. All you need is the right guidance and the right master. The right master is the one who gives you absolute freedom, who makes you independent, and the one who makes you capable of knowing yourself. Remember, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Everything is possible when the Master appears before you. and the master appears only when you are ready. This readiness is based on your level of surrender and the depth of understanding that you have attained through deep penance and devotion towards God. Nothing comes on its own. Everything comes when you start taking efforts, when you remain consistent in your efforts, when you remain committed to finding the answer to the question, who am I? The inquiry, who am I, turns the mind introvert and makes it calm, says Bhagwan Raman Maharshi. And when the mind becomes calm, the soul starts speaking, and then you get to hear the truth that you seek. Meditate and let the journey within begin. Jai Sri Ganesha, Jai Guru. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.